Hello and welcome to your Daily Google News. I'm Qasim.
I'm
That's John.
I beat you.
We did it. And today we're going to talk about how to use your customer LTV in order to scale your smart shopping campaign.
Yep. And it's funny because I get this question quite often on like the Monday lives where someone's like, okay, I have, a campaign running. It's been running for 60 days. I have no target return ad spend goal. And it still won't spend the daily budget, which is usually odd. And I've been seeing a trend in smart shopping recently. Google's almost trying to use a maximize conversion value like plus ROAS. It's weird. What I mean by that is if you have maximized conversion value on, normally with a target return ad spend, it'll reach that target return ad spend, but it will taper off the spend. But if you don't have a target return on ad spend, if you set it to $100, $200, $500, $1,000 a day, it will spend that, and it will spend that and with a just horrible ROAS if it wants to. Like that's what it's been doing. You can get like 0.1 ROAS, and if you have $1,000 a day, it's like, yep, all right, cool, we'll spend $1,000 a day. And here's your 0.1 ROAS. I've been seeing that smart shopping has been sort of evolving. It's probably updates to their algorithm, is what I would imagine. That it will try not to go below 100% return on ad spend, and it will actually pull back spend by itself.
Even if you don't have a T-ROAS assigned.
Even if you don't have a T-ROAS assigned, it almost says, we know you don't have a T-ROAS assigned, but if you're not getting over 100% ROAS, it's just not going to spend.
Which makes sense. So, you're not breaking even. We don't want to spend more money.
Right. And so what's weird though is like, even though it doesn't have a target return ad spend of 100% on, it will kind of default to that. And I've seen this a few times. I actually have a couple case studies. One I can't necessarily share in this video, but I just got off a call with them. It's a consulting client, and we've been able to like 5 times their spend by giving an LTV to a first purchase. And that's because the common denominator of when I see this, because I don't see this all the time, but the common denominator of when I see it is low cart value. When you have a low cart value, if your average, cart value is, let's say $25, well, Google is just not going to spend more than $25 if it needs to make one sale and get 100% return on ad spend. You can have the daily ad spend be $200, $300, $400, $500. It will just still be at $25 a day. So one thing is a bigger question. Is a low average cart value even good for you in the world of paid advertising? Because, how much can you really spend after, let's say you have a 35% profit margin, which is still decent, but if you have a $20 item, you really can't spend more than like $7 before you're running to negative profitability.
Yeah. But if they're consumable or repeat purchase, you want that customer on the front end. You want to go at a loss because over the long term, you're going to be able to make it all up. Yeah.
And so that's what's interesting is, especially if you have like 5,000 products and you have customers that purchase from you 6 to 12 times per year, Google will just not let you get out of that slump. Especially if you haven't had enough lifetime spend for you to upload a customer list so that Google can easily define between new versus repeat customers. So Google actually kind of locks itself into a performance limiter by saying, we're not sure if these are new or repeat customers, because you haven't spent 50 grand, but we can't actually let you spend 50 grand yet in order for you to actually upload your customer list to identify between new and repeat customers. The tag doesn't have enough information to identify between new and repeat customers. And every lever that you need to pull in order to get to a high spend with good LTV and good scalability is limited by not being able to spend, which is kind of what Google's putting you into this box. So it's been taking me a couple of weeks to figure this out, but I've been able to repeat this now 3 times and with pretty good success. And so that's what I'm going to talk about today.
I'm so excited.
If you have a low cart value campaign, which is fine. There's a lot of people that sell products for $20, $30, $40, $50. That's not uncommon. That's probably a good majority. But I've had this question enough where I think that it's worthwhile to share. Now, we're going to block the name of this client here so that we protect their identity. But I just want to go back to, let's say, like May. I don't exactly remember how long we've been running this thing. But you'll see the conversions, they're happening. Conversions are happening well. And I'm getting, a good amount of conversions, or let's just do week over week, but it starts to pull back. We didn't actually reduce budget here. It just started to pull back and pull back and pull back. And you'll notice though, all of a sudden the cost down here was like $3 a day and didn't make a sale. And like $18 when I made a sale, and then $40 didn't make a sale. And then all of a sudden it goes from $45 to $50 and 2 to 60 and 5 to 258 and 7 and 816 to 10. You can see now all of a sudden it ramped up really, really quickly. To get us out of this slump, what we did is we took it to the extreme. Oh, by the way, I've set I'll go through change history recently in the last, just say like 14 days, because I had to pull back on it because we spent quite a bit really quickly, but we figured out the issue. Let me go through change history, because this is what's crazy. First off, there is no target return ad spend on this account. There has not been.
And your advice, John, for as long as I've heard you talk about this, is to keep a TROAS off for as long as you can afford to.
Right. Yeah, keep a TROAS off for as long as you can. Because if you have a low, cart value and you don't have enough conversions, it's going to be very, very hard for Google to make a 400 ROAS on a $25 cart value. You got to think that's like $6 is the most it can spend consistently at scale in order to get a conversion. That's pretty difficult. And so what we found is that on August 17th, I went from 200 to 500 here, and this is August 17th. But I was at $200 a day, and I've been at $200 a day for quite a while. Let me just see where the budget was. So you can I'll walk you through how this worked. So 100 to 200 on July 30th. That's here, July 30th. And it was spending $45, $46, $65, $17, $3, $18, $40, $35. No TROAS. I said, okay, I'll try to spend 200 now. Still didn't. Said spend 200 to 500 on the 17th. And on the 17th was here. Went from 200 to 500 to 60. And at 258, there's something else though that happened here. And what that is on that date, I went in and said new customer acquisition worth $100. So it says, well, your existing customer online purchase is $28. So I'm just going to limit your spend to about $20 to $40 per day, keeping you around 100 ROAS, because sometimes we make 1 to 3 sales per day. I said, but what if a new customer that purchase was worth $128? It's like, oh, well, by all means.
This is a dangerous thing to do if you don't know your numbers.
Yes.
If you're a business that doesn't know, I'm going to get a repeat purchase, I'm not, if you're not confident these folks are coming back, you're just going to spend money to lose money.
Right. Right. And that's where, and I know I made this point before, big brands, if they have like a 1 day ROAS, which means of what did we spend and what do we make today of like 1.1 and 1.0, sometimes like 0.8, they will scale that thing to the moon, because Nike knows over the course of your lifetime, you're probably going to spend $2,000 with me. So I'll spend $100 for a new customer that orders $100 for the shoes, 100% ROAS, because they know that you're going to like my shoes and you're going to come back and repeat. And they now know that data over a course of a time. What is the LTV per customer for the last 25 years at least? And then they know that, okay, the average customer ends up spending X amount of dollars with us. Well, when you know those numbers well, you can then apply that to the campaign. Now,
so the prerequisite here is you have to know your numbers, because if you don't know what your profitability looks like and you start telling Google what a customer is worth to you, then you're basically, that's a really dangerous gamble.
Yeah, because the money that you see inside of Google Ads is not going to be in your bank account, but Google's going to spend like it is. So what I usually say to clients is look at a 12-month period. The big brands like Nike, they can go 25 years because they've been in business 25 years. They have immense amount of data for every single person who's ever bought any shoes in a big database, and they can look at what the LTV is, at least annually and lifetime for each customer. And then they say, well, if I'm over 100% return on ad spend to the moon, because that's something that is going to consider, I'm going to make $2,000 over the next 10 years of that customer. So that's an example of how big brands do that, which is why this actually kind of makes sense that Google's moving towards this 100% return on ad spend model. It's kind of like the bare minimum, at least making your money back before it would allow you to scale. And so for this customer in particular, and I won't say their name, but the products that they sell is baby clothes. Now, baby clothes, imagine how much clothes you buy for babies, especially if you have 74,000 products.
Gosh.
So you can imagine that for children's clothes, you're buying clothes every 6 months at least. So what's nice is their LTV is very good because you're going to buy from basically newborn all the way up to at least 2 and 3 years old before they get into like the toddler and then the small sizes. But you're going to probably have at least 2 or 3 or 4 purchases, and if they're $25 purchases, that LTV is going to be there. And then you're going to start to see that over time, you're going to see, okay, now that you're spending more and we're making more money, what's the new versus repeat? And then you can kind of see that your new customers are spending X and your repeat customers are spending Y. And now what Google's doing is saying, now if they don't use Google Ads again to come through and make a purchase, they're going to go through your emails, marketing that you're doing, your organic, your what's it called? Your email, your organic, your direct, social media, whatever it may be for remarketing, retargeting. And so that's where, with Google kind of limiting the spend to 100% return on ad spend, you have to now tell it what a customer is really worth to you. And Google has to see that before we'll allow it to scale, which is just putting the cart before the horse. But if you know that the horse is there, it's okay.
Question for you. If you're using offline conversion tracking and or conversion value adjustments, these two strategies could end up overlapping and or contradictory, right? So it's kind of like one or the other.
Well, are you talking about
I'll say it the stupid way. I'll say it like a layman, which will be hard for me.
You could do
Somebody comes and they buy, baby clothes A. And I just learned this morning, by the way, that offline conversion tracking is a 90-day window. I did not know that. Yeah. I think that is such a freaking insane limitation. I have no idea why Google would apply that.
Well, there's 90-day window. It allows it for even online or offline. Anything past 90 days when you upload, it just says too old. But
yeah, they cache the G-clip for 90 days, and on the 91st day, they kill it.
Right.
That's so stupid. There's so many. I mean, most industries. Anyway.
Yeah.
Let's say somebody buys baby clothes, and you have your initial value tracked inside of Google Ads, and then they come back, and 2 weeks later, they buy another, set of clothes. You can import that conversion back into Google Ads.
Yep.
That will let Google know, hey, customer A is now not worth $25, they're worth $50. But doesn't your strategy of saying customer is actually worth $150 or $125? Like, are these two things, did you just say, you know what I'm saying? So like you said, customer is worth 25 plus 100. So Google goes 125. And then you're like, actually about another 25. So did Google just go 150?
Yes. Well, that's what's interesting is Google, if you upload it, and Google's tag does not see that person before, your offline upload could actually add on an additional $100 to it, even though it's not necessarily did the conversion happen online or offline. It has Google seen that customer before. So what's interesting is if you uploaded a customer that the Google Ads tag does not have cached, and it's their second purchase, and you upload that to Google and Google sees it as a first purchase, it could be a $100 sale plus another $100 sale modifier on top of that, and then bump that up to a large amount. One of the ways that I think that this would be probably more valuable is reducing your click-through conversion. If you're going to count every conversion, here's what I mean by that. There's like an accidental oops that happens here. Let's say you have a 90-day cookie on your conversion action, which means you're following click-through conversions for 90 days. Fairly standard. And you count every conversion. Fairly standard, because you want to count those repeats. That's where this gets a little bit interesting, is a person comes in on day one and buys something and spends $10. And Google says, okay, that's now $110. It says one conversion equals $110. That person then on day 2, 3, and 4, just as an example, spends another $10. And it'll show that there's been 3 more conversions from this person for $10 each. But what happened is you said, yeah, but this new customer is actually worth $100. And it says, oh yeah, no, we counted that. And then we ended up counting their actual worth repeatedly. So you can actually kind of like, you can front load it. And then there's actually what really is taking place is now been given back to Google. It's really
it's not a reconciliation in Google's mind, right? It's like they're
No.
adding to it. So it's basically it's or either front load your value or provide offline conversion data. Now, how is this? And I don't think it is. Google just rolled out something literally 5 days ago. Conversion value rules. How is this different than conversion value rules, if at all? And would you recommend using conversion value rules to do this same thing?
Well, the conversion value rule is going to be like the location or audience. It's not going to say new versus returning.
Yeah, but you could have just a blanket, like, you know, if you're marketing in the US, if the customer comes in the US, then double the conversion value.
Yeah. And I think what ends up doing is that just gives you one, it's a different strategy because Google Smart Shopping in particular gets stuck into remarketing with low conversion values. And what I mean by that is Google says, well, it's a lot easier, cheaper, and faster, I guess, to go after those repeat purchases. So you'll find that Google is not necessarily bringing you a lot of new customers. It just keeps reselling the old customers. And so you'll find that Google actually end up just, if you look at we have a bunch of accounts that have
multiple repeat. The way you're doing it is acquisition targeted.
Right. I'm saying, but new customers are the only thing that's going to grow my business. I can't scale repeat. I can scale new and repeat. So with the new customer acquisition, it puts an emphasis on the new customer because the new customer is worth more. And what Google basically did is build an algorithm to trick the old algorithm from getting stuck in this little bit of a cycle. And it's like, well, I have 50-50 new and repeat, but I'm going to go after these repeats because they purchase more often than the new, technically, because they're the same people, but it's cheaper and it's less competition. It's an easier sale because these people are loyal customers. And then you end up getting this like 80-20 rule. It's only 20% new customers, then 80%, and you're adding ad spend and your ROAS isn't going up and your new customer list in your email is not going up. You're making more sales, but at reduced ROAS continually because you're not just over showing to your existing audience. So to break yourself kind of out of that funk, you have to trick Google into say, no, these new customers are worth more. And then what does maximize conversion value bidding strategy do? Go after who's worth more, which is just now the new customer. And that's how you can kind of scale your way out of this little vicious cycle that smart shopping ends up kind of just repeatedly circling itself in this vicious cycle that will never break its habit.
When I realize you're using this for smart shopping, but it sounds like it would be just as viable for lead generation.
Well, sort of. You can use it for lead generation if you're giving a value to a lead.
That's what I mean. So if you have a lead gen campaign that for whatever reason isn't necessarily scaling, you could go in and tell Google, hey, this lead is worth like whatever the high water mark would be. And then all of a sudden Google in theory would be more receptive and or accessible to spending towards that.
Yeah, it's not directly comparative. It's a kind of a spin-off of it because the only time that Google will tell you a new versus repeat customer is in smart shopping. Everything else is unknown. So what ends up happening is if you're not running smart shopping, Google's like, I just don't know who's a new and repeat lead. It won't differentiate or treat those differently. So the way to do that is to have a lead come in. Like I'll just use 2 examples. One person fills out a white paper and then they don't become a customer. The other person fills out a white paper and then becomes a customer. You have to have your white paper conversion, but then you also have to have a offline conversion that you can import that is now called become a customer. That's your conversion action. And then you use a e-commerce bidding strategy, target return ad spend, maximize conversion value. And what it'll do is says, well, these people that fill out a lead form turn into $0. And these people that fill out a lead form then turn into $1,000. And maximize conversion value will attempt to go after more of a lookalike audience of the people that are converting. Now, if it's situational, this isn't going to work.
That's what you're saying, because with lead gen, you have to understand demographics and psychographics of the person who's actually taking the action. With e-commerce, if they bought, they're in the bucket of people that took the action.
Yeah, that's perfectly quality as anybody that buys.
That's funny. Yeah, dude, this is a wicked ninja. Like this, but it's one of those things that I'm afraid to even give it to. Like you're handing a toddler in some instances. Man, did I just disparage our listener base? That's not what I mean at all. If you're not adept at using Google Ads, this is a hell of a powerful tool.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like if you're not a professional, I'd be real careful at assigning some of these values.
Yeah. And that's what's interesting is if you don't know your numbers first, you really can't do this, because you can see that if I said spend $500 a day, it's like, nope. Like, what if these people worth more? Oh yeah, it blows through the roof. If you're wrong fast, and that's the scary part.
If you're wrong, you're wrong a lot.
Yeah, it's like your Google Ads campaign now says 100% ROAS. Might actually be 10% total. If you don't hold it there long term and allow Google to bring those customers back, all you did was just spend a lot more money for the same people you're going to get anyway.
Well, and this is a cash flow issue too, right? Let's say you're right. Let's say your math is absolutely right. And over the course of a year, you are going to achieve that. Mm-hmm. But number one, let's say that is weighted towards the end of the year. It's not equal throughout. You could outspend yourself and still be in a position where you're waiting for, your quote unquote bridge loan, because you're still 6 months away from when those customers are going to buy. And now you're out of money. So you are profitable technically, but you've ran out of cash and you can't feed the machine any longer.
Yeah, which is why I usually say, like, if you're going to use this term, scale up slowly and look at it annually. That way, at least in the first year, you should be being paid back. But if you're like, yeah, they buy from me every 3 to 4 years, you got to have some cash reserves, right? To run this, like, year 4 is our year.
Well, we've got customers like that too. Like we have folks with 18, 24-month sales cycle.
Yeah. And so you need to have, short sales cycle. And if you can have something that is like a repeatable sale, like baby clothes, and those people are actually coming back and buying from you, don't just say like, well, I have baby clothes, of course they're going to come back. Like, if they don't like it and they don't come back, the strategy is not going to work. So you need to know your numbers. You
have to have a nurture in place. You have to be able to service customers. People have to actually like what you have,
right,
etc.
Cool.
Yeah. This is Ninja, man. I appreciate the context here. We shoot a video every day, so subscribe if you want notifications, and comment if you have questions or input. That's all I got. John, any better sign off than that?
Like, comment, subscribe, or I will find you. I'm a digital marketer. That's what we do.
Threatening people into submission.
Yeah.
All right, buddy. I'll see you next time.
See you.
Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please give us a thumbs up. That lets YouTube know we actually know what we're doing. We shoot a video every single day, so if you want to be notified, hit that subscribe button. And if you have any input, don't hesitate to hit us up in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. We get very little human interaction. Thanks for supporting our channel, and hopefully I'll see you tomorrow.